A day or two ago, I realized that it has been 1 year. Um, 1 year. So I realized that it was July 31st or 29th or something like that. Last few days of this month. And I said, "Oh, August is coming up." And last August, on the 1st of August, I sat, or near the 1st, or on the 1st, I sat at the Starbucks and got my notebook out. And I bought a brand new notebook a year ago, and I wrote out my whole life circumstance. I wrote down how much money it would take to get ahead, the things that I needed. I wrote that down a year ago. And I wrote down the economic reality of the situation, how much money I would need, etc. And I do that every 3 months, right? Typically I do that every 3 months, but this time I did it last year, probably like 3 times last year, like August 1st, and I think sometimes around the 1st of the month, and but anyways, and I did it a few months ago, so something like that. I've done it like 3 times. And the idea is to get clear on where you're at. Put it down on paper. That way, it's not like just kind of cloudy in your mind. You're left like wondering what is this, what's that, and I made a video about it on here and on the Stardust Simulation channel, and like I said in the previous video, probably a year ago, that most likely nothing's going to change because back then I didn't have access to any. A year ago, I did not have any access to any kind of true actual resources or connections that would help me advance my life situation, right? None of the jobs out here that are hiring, none of the companies out here that are hiring that have jobs available would render an income that would be able to begin to create the foundation I need for improving my life circumstance. So 3 years ago, I got my license back after it was suspended due to a fraudulent child support case that I ended up winning and beating. And people downplay that as if like I didn't do some kind of great feat, like they downplay it like, oh well, okay, well you got the case closed, that's good, blah blah blah, when in reality what I accomplished was phenomenal. It was crushing a major life attack, a life impacting thing. So imagine had I succumbed to their fear tactics and gave in. Like literally everybody told me to give in. Literally everybody's like, "Oh well, Billy, you just gotta you just gotta give in. You gotta man, just sometimes you just gotta realize that you don't really have much control over the situation. You just kind of gotta let things be." And these are freedom-loving Americans, allegedly, anyway, right? And also, I believe in their minds that they had already concluded, like all these people I'm talking about, they had already concluded that I was most likely probably in the wrong, right? They had already concluded that I was probably the one really in error, and they probably suspected that, well, Billy, you must have truly actually gotten behind, and you're in denial, and and the system is right because it's the authority. They're in the right, and I suspect, Billy, that you should just probably. Well, why can't you? One guy even sent me like a link or a screenshot. The Christian guy that helped me out, right, with some things. He sent me a link and he's like, well, Billy, it says right here that you can get your license back, and all you got to do is like file this paper. And it's basically a paper that you file that lets the child support enforcement entity know that you are willing to agree to begin small installments in order to at least temporarily get your license reinstated. So it's basically like you're only allowed to drive to go to work. And I was like, fuck that shit. Fuck that. If the government is fraudulently opening a case on you and attacking you and just randomly generating an arbitrary number out of thin air, do you just kind of give in to it and just succumb to the attacks where they're attacking you? No. Fuck no. Fuck that. Right? So I ended up winning that. I ended up winning and beating that. Why? Because I did not give up. I fought a government entity, and it took a year. Technically, it was over 2 years. It was a case that had been opened for over 2 years, right? And So that's it went on for more than that, but my license was suspended for a year and 7 months. And the reality of it is it was a major fucking win, right? It was a major win. And people wanted to downplay it because they wanted to believe that, it's just Billy. Yeah, Billy's like kind of like in the, I get it, Billy, but I get it, Billy, but you should, just kind of like, you gotta do something, Billy. You gotta do something to make it better in the meantime. So it's another example of people downplaying my wins, like a major attack on my life that destroyed us economically, right? It really put an extremely harmful put us in it gave us an extremely harmful predicament to be in. It was literally damaging our lives, and there I was, like, carrying around my 13-year-old son, trying to provide for him with no license. The government refusing to talk, refusing to communicate with me. Zero. The whole time they never communicated with me, up until the point to where we were able to get them that letter. Immediately the license was reinstated. And immediately, well, I never heard back from them. So they haven't come at me ever since. So for the people to downplay that and make that sound like it's like, oh, it was just nothing. It's okay, Billy. Like, even after the fact, they're just like, oh, okay. Well, that's good. The downplaying comes in the form of no acknowledgement. Just, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you're back on your feet, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm glad you got your license back. Oh, I mean, just that kind of downplaying, because people don't want to have to admit that I won something tremendous, because people kind of need to put me into this kind of like this cognitively, they want to put me kind of like in this mold of someone who is just this weak person that's just constantly doesn't know what he's doing. They need that because they need to feel better about themselves. So that's why they downplay my wins, and we're talking about a major win. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like and I know this is true. I know this is real. You know, and here's why. Throughout my life, I've seen people achieve certain things and overcome certain odds. And the majority of the time with other people's help, right? The majority of the time, it is a result of other people's help, right? I mean, even in my winning the child support case, I had a couple of people helping me out, right? So that means that even when by me beating the case, now don't get me wrong, I fought 90% of it, right? And I had some good people helping me out. The amount of work that they put in to help me was a potent defensive strike on my enemies, right? So anybody that's ever gotten out of something has, for the most part, most of the time, I've always had some assistance from another source. It's just a fundamental way life works, and that's another way people can downplay your win. Like they could downplay my win and be like, "Aha, you got help from And then so with somebody like me, then they would just try to conclude, oh, well, they did all of that for you, Billy. They did all of that for you, just in order to kind of keep me kind of molded down into the mold I referenced a minute ago, right? Everybody's always trying to move me back into the mold of what they cognitively are expecting based on their biases and perceptions of who I am, because a lot of people, I've encountered a lot of people who literally just don't want me to be anything outside of the mold of struggling little Billy and his just always kind of he's always had those problems. People need, and in general, people need to have certain people like that around to some extent in order to, because it just proves that what they're doing is correct. It just demonstrates and reinforces that, hey, I'm doing things good. I'm doing things unlike that Billy. Look at him, and I know this is a true thing. I know this is a true phenomenon. It's not just me being all like, oh, I'm just thinking about all of what they're thinking. It's literally something to be cognitive of in the process of navigating this world. This is just street smarts, right? It's just having a deep, nuanced understanding of how and why people operate the way they do. That's just really what it is. And that is annoying. It really is. And but it's also important to be aware of it, because if you're not aware of it, you don't win. If you just passively sit back and not be aware of these variables, these things, then you just always lose, right? But anyways, getting back on point, I sit here and today is August 2nd, and I said, it's Sunday. I'm gonna get back in here, and it's been a year since I wrote everything down, and basically nothing's changed really. And that's the thing, like, I don't have the resources. Okay, it was July 28th of last year, but generally around the same time. Usually, that's the thing. Usually I do it a couple of days before the first of the month. I do it like the end of the month. And I put the goal is to have a July 28, 2025. The goal is a place to live where income is more than the bills and expenses, where there's enough money left over to use to invest in the future and improve. Very simple. Then eventually have property, build a house. The goal is that the income comes from revenue being generated by having my businesses, or other sources. So just the general goal to kind of clear my mind. I mean, I wrote down some details here. I just don't want to share some of those details at the moment, but I will in the future. So then I put a list of all the revenue streams I could generate. Like, for example, I accrue my own client base. I had 3 people cancel on me recently over the past month, and then I'm losing the lady where I used to stay. Like, I'm losing that business. She's just sold the house, so that's a consistent revenue stream. Just disappeared. All right, but I wrote down a list of revenue streams, and this boils down to the reason why I'm not sharing a lot of details, because it boils down to, they say not to share your goals and visions with people until after you've achieved them, and this is basically what it all boils down to. I believe that's right, because especially somebody like in my position in life, you don't want to do that. So I put down here, finding an affordable rental with a certain okay, well, now this is more of some creative ideas I have. This is not solid, okay? This is not a solid, like, thing but it's ideal. But if I can find an affordable rental with a certain aesthetic where the owner grants me permission to remodel it, that would be ideal, because I can monetize that using social media, and make it interesting. And I can create a following based on that and generate revenue. So this is one of the ideas I put down. What do I need to arrive where my income exceeds bills and expenses, where I am free to make and create things to sell, to not have to work for other men, is what I put here, and returning back to previous cycles. What do I need to not have to work for other men and return back to previous cycles? So that's something I wanted to note. And then I wrote my notes right here. I have planned like this in the past, where goals were never practically obtainable. Jobs did not pay enough to begin to make goals as such as these are possible. My business never picked up to where these goals could begin I put the word initiate, so I guess that was the wrong word, but my business never picked. Even today, a year later, my business hasn't picked up to where I could even begin on any of my personal goals, right? So I got more notes here. It would require a significant, drastic change. There would need to exist a stint of drastic luck, help, or change in circumstances for the right path to open. Like good paying landscaping jobs. Like over the year, it's like staying where I used to stay. Like when I first got the license back and I was staying at that apartment for a year, I had no money, man. Like just job to job to job to job. I managed to maintain staying there for a year. No savings, and sometimes I dipped into the negative, right, while I was staying there, and I had to ask my mom for help a couple of times. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. Fuck it, I don't give a fuck, right? It's just practical truth. It's just practical reality as someone who does not have connections and resources with people, right? I don't have that, so but that's just the way things go, right? And then continuing the notes, working for someone else will not generate the predictable assumed effect of contributing to this goal. And this is a fact. It would consume time, energy, and mental bandwidth. There are realistically, practically no jobs, and that's true today too. Um, that was a pretty Asian lady. Anyways, there are realistically practically no jobs that will assist. I should have talked to her, man, but I'm focused, right? There are realistically practically no jobs that will assist in this goal. Even today, it's 2026, same thing. They will rather take away from any potential to achieve this goal. Like, just jokingly, semi-jokingly, I applied for a warehouse, and I posted some screenshots of what I put in the in the application, and I was like, that would be some shit if they actually called me back, because I know they weren't going to hire me anyway. So I just decided to bullshit. I was just driving by and I saw this warehouse and it said now hiring, and it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, like ideal hours. Like, I would love, if I worked for somebody else, I would love that schedule, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. That'd be great. And I got lucky whenever I was younger, and I did find a job like that. But it was a warehouse, and I'm sure that all the people there, or the large quantity of people, especially if you're at the bottom end, like if you're like it was like a machine maintenance helper, right? So that's entry level. $16 to $22 an hour. They would most likely started me out at 16. We all know that. As a machine helper, a machine maintenance helper, some kind of low end entry level position, right? And the people there are going to be miserable. And so, let's say I got hired onto there. If you did get hired onto that job, then everybody's going to be miserable, and you're not actually getting hired to do machine maintenance. Now, let me explain what I mean. The position says machine maintenance helper. The position says that, and you're going to be helping the maintenance guy or whatever the job entails, right? That's what the label says, but in reality, what are you actually doing, right? What are you actually doing what are you actually being hired for? You're actually being hired to help them. For one, this was actually my second point, but I'm going to say the second point first. So you actually are hired, because I looked it up. I looked up the company, and it was literally just a guy, like some random guy, who had this idea for a certain type of mattress I think to help his son sleep better, like his toddler or something. And he came up with some kind of like idea for some foam, or I don't remember exactly. But the point is he started this business and eventually got enough money to open up a bunch of locations all across the country. So this is just one of his locations. He's just a guy. He's just some dude like me, like you. He's just some guy that said, hey, I want to make this thing and sell it. And so effectively, when I'm getting hired onto there, I'm just going to go help him sell his mattresses or whatever he's with, the bedding, some kind of bedding thing. I'm just helping him grow it and make some money for himself, because he's living his life. He's living life. So if I go do my 40 hours there, I'm just helping him. I'm just helping him grow his life and build his dreams. It's literally that. Literally nothing more than that. But if I followed the rules of society and the programming, then I'm supposed to say, here's what I'm supposed to say, is that my position there is the dream. Like, I got the job. Ooh, and I tell people, if I got hired, I wish I get hired onto there. Just so I could tell people, oh yeah, I work at this place now, so that I can watch at people's expressions, go, oh my God, congratulations, as if it's like better than working for yourself to build your own dreams. As if, like, oh my God, that's good. Oh my God. When in actuality, like I wrote here, there are realistically practically no jobs that will assist in my goal. They will rather take away from any potential to achieve this goal. Because now, let's just be real. It might be 40 hours, but you're technically spending 50 hours invested in that job or more. Because you got to get ready for work, you got to drive to work, and you got to leave work. So you're investing 50 plus hours into a 40-hour job. And you're just helping that Asian dude who started his business to help his son out. And you're just going in there to help him run it so that he can live life on his own terms. He gets up every day as the owner, and he does what he wants. And what does he want? To grow his company. That's all it is. But people would just look at me and go, oh my God, Billy, that's so awesome. Oh, you got the job. Oh God, when I hear that, when I hear people get excited, like, oh my God, you got the job. What they're saying is like, oh, the authorities are allowing you permission. Oh my God, so this great thing, because like people's companies are perceived as like these divine entities that just kind of exist in your reality. They just exist. They're just there, and then the authority figures, oh, they give you permission. They benevolently grant you the opportunity to show up to help them operate these operations that were started by the great authorities on high from some ambiguous place, right? And so that's why it's a lie, right? So because I would love to do that just so that I could troll people and be like, oh my God, I got the job. And then I would love to do this. I'd be like, well, okay, so now I'm going to go help him run his business. How come you weren't happy that I was trying to be free and do what I want for my life and live life? Because if you're caught down there, you're not living life. But anyways, that's one level of it. But my main point is if I got hired at that job, what would the job be? Would it be helping the maintenance guy? Would it be a maintenance helper? Yeah, that might be the title, but the actual reality of it is, if it's entry level and it's manual labor and it's running machines and stuff like that, the majority of the people are not going to be there because they just decided to wake up one day and be like, oh my God, oh man, he's running his business, his bed business. Oh my God, I want to be part of the vision of that company. I want to be part of it. It's my dream in life and my goal to wake up every day and go into the warehouse and move some boxes and operate some machines and stuff, right? So they wouldn't. None of them said that. You know what they all did? They said, "Oh, I need to get a job." They all said, "Oh, I need to get a job so I can provide." And so, and do the right thing and be culturally accepted and societally accepted into society through my assimilating into it, and be morally superior to everybody else who's not doing it right. And so basically, you got a bunch of unhappy people. So the job would be the real job would be going in there to navigate those politics. It wouldn't be operating the machines. It wouldn't be fixing the machines. The actual job itself would be to go in there and assume your position within that hierarchy and to survive it as they outnumber you. And you're someone like me with no connections, no true help, no true power. At most, the only help I'm getting right now is just for the first time in my entire life, the ability to go stay with my mom, because I never had my parents to live with when I was growing up. And the only reason why I get to do this, as some of you know, is because my mom gets VA benefits, and that's how she pays her rent. And my dad fought in the Vietnam War, and she gets to reap the benefits of that. And that's why I feel no guilt about it, because not only did the government, screw my dad over, that created a domino effect to where the impacts of the war that this country had on him impacted my life and created for me a scenario where I had a life of poverty. Then the Child Support Enforcement Agency and the family courts and all the corruption involved, they attacked me. So I feel no guilt. Plus, also my sister, who is the child of the man, who my mom left my dad for, and she's reaping the benefits of getting to live for free at 25 years old, no job, no license, and she gets to live for free off of what my dad did, and I never had an opportunity to have a stable foundation in life. I have zero guilt or remorse for taking advantage of the opportunity to at least have a place to reside, at least temporarily. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel any guilt at all. So, a woman leaves her entire family of 5 or 6 kids, screws another man, has a child, and then that child gets to reap the benefits of what my dad did. Make it make sense, right? Would you feel any guilt or remorse? I know the fuck that I don't, but I'm also aware that I'm outnumbered just because that situation exists. Even as recently as 1 or 2 days ago, my aunt is on the phone with my mother saying, "Is he working?" So I'm and then telling my mom that, if it were her, she would put her foot down and lay down the law, like as if we're doing something wrong. So, and we're not. We're literally not doing anything wrong. So I'm outnumbered by people who, they just have more leverage over me, and so that's the circumstance, right? Got people that have way more leverage over me. And so it has proven to be a volatile environment. It's hard to think. My mom constantly wants to talk about random stuff that doesn't even need to be talked about, while I'm mentally trying to plan and think ahead. I'm constantly planning and thinking ahead. I'm constantly in the mindset of how do I move forward? And then my mom's constantly interrupting me because she can't think, and she's just like, oh yeah, earlier this morning I accidentally spilt my drink, and then I had to clean it up. And she will just tell me random things that don't even matter, down to man, I was in the bathroom today and I ran out of toilet paper, but luckily there was another roll of toilet paper right there. And I was like, whoa, I was relieved, because for a moment there I thought I was out of toilet paper or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, that's just a constant thing, and I really truly believe that she does not get it. She actually doesn't get it. So when I've told her that, I like the reason why I got my earbuds in all the time is because I just want to be focused. I don't want to talk, But even after explaining it multiple times, it just doesn't stick. It never sticks. And I just have concluded that's just her default wiring that she has no control over. I truly believe she just doesn't have any control over it. Now I could be mean and be like, look, I've said this 1,000,000 times, but even then it doesn't work, because I have done that in the past, things similar to that, but it took me a while to realize this is not even a conscious thing on her part, So anyways, but yeah, so if I got hired at that place, then I would end up being a the job itself would be to navigate around the politics of that environment and to figure out who there are the energy suckers and who there are the cool people. And so the job is, that would be what I'd be getting paid for, to enter into a social group that I didn't want to belong to, where at some level everybody knows they're not there because they want to be. And so if you show any sign of personal contentment or self-satisfaction from within, they will attack you. They will begin to mob you, and so you got to go in there and practice gray rock and being neutral. And then when you do that, then they start like labeling you like, well, why is he weird? He's weird. He just like, they're wondering why you're not assimilating into their thought processes. Then everybody there is talking about how they're going to get effed up on the weekends, or the quick fix things that they're going to do for their escape, because that's what employees do. Employees have no goals, right? They don't have any goals for their life, so they just clocked in and they're just doing what they're were told, and then they just go do what they were what they were told that they were supposed to do. So so they're unhappy. They have no goals. So what they do is they do the normal. They've got their station in life where they're paying their bills, and then they just go home and they do their entertainment and their escapism and and complacency and not having any ambitions. And so if you are someone like me and you want to move ahead in life and you want personal freedom, like someone like me, like they ain't gonna fly. They're not gonna like that. So you have to literally not be yourself and not talk about your goals. Just be gray rock, put your head down, and then it's a no-win thing. And someone like me with no power, no connections, no ability, I have no power over how people are. I don't have any clout. I don't have any leverage. So at best, the most power I can have is just to be able to say fuck it, and clock out and say this place isn't for me. And they hate that too, but then after you're gone, well, like what the fuck can they do about that, right? So and plus the money won't pay enough. $22 an hour. I did the math. They consume more of your time and resources than contribute, is what I wrote down here. Plan of action. This is from last year. Leave where we are currently at. Make a list of things we want to keep in case we have to make an abrupt exit. Because remember, that situation was volatile. And also that situation economically, even though I was able to keep that apartment for a year, once I went to go live there, the rent was less, but the rent work agreement made it to where it just practically evened out. Like, it was slightly a little bit better circumstance economically over there, because I had a lot of leverage and I could survive. And then at times she would also pay me on top of me doing the work over there. She would also throw me a few dollars. So I have to be honest about that fact, and just the way that the systems would operate on a day-to-day basis. It made it to where I was able to last there 2 years, where I was not able to last at the previous apartment for 1 year. You know what I'm saying? So number 3, develop a plan for how we would leave if it was necessary to escape abruptly. I just said that. Number 4, if we don't have to leave abruptly, take belongings to storage. So I was beginning a slow process of integrating, moving out, over there, just in case like we had to abruptly leave. I wanted to have most of my stuff gone, because at times it got bad over there. It really got bad because I didn't have any way to get out of it. Number 5, find out how much cheap trailers are for rent. Number 6, search for live-in gardener/landscaper opportunities. Number 7, post ads for the live-in gardener landscaper, which I did, ads and videos on YouTube and stuff. Even though, like, I was asking AI, I was like, well, what's the likeliness and probability I'll find a scenario or an opportunity like that? And it said, according to AI, like the likeliness of that happening is pretty slim. Like, you know, unless I pretty much got lucky. Like, and I've known people that have had that opportunity. I've known people who have had that opportunity, and they are, you know, even then, you know, it's kind of like an outlier situation. It's like people got lucky, you know. People aren't every day saying, hey, I need a live-in gardener, you know, maybe like the super wealthy, you know, and that's who I would need to connect with. But it's not like it's such a common thing to where I could just go out there and say, oh, okay, hey, you know. Anyways, who wants their live-in gardener? It's not, in other words, it's not as abundant a thing where you could just go around and ask people until you find one, you know. Because I've asked, you know, it's just not that frequent of a thing around here anyway. That's why I reached out. That's why I've always said I've been willing to move. I'm willing to move away from here for the right opportunity, you know, if it works out, you know, far away, you know. But anyways, number 8, network plus share these actions plus goals with the right people, you know. Just sometimes I just write down these basic things just to get things off my mind, you know, because that's an obvious one, right? Number 9, share why this is an important move for my son. I don't know why I put that. I don't know what I was thinking at the moment. 10, find out precisely how much income is needed to self-sustain plus grow. That's the thing. Got to get out of this situation where I'm living job to job to job, you know. Funny thing is, I move out of there, and then my clientele base decreases after I start living with my mom, right? And then the hot heat of summer came upon us after the spring rush this year, and then my business just sort of like flopped. Now, I kind of expected that, because in a previous video, I'm like, in my other video in the spring, I was like, man, I got $1,500 in the bank account for the first time in my life for years, you know, or for years. First time I've had this much in my bank account. Number 10, find out precisely how much income is needed to self-sustain plus grow.